Now, when the topic turns to Drake's current standing in hip-hop, Nokia is the track that keeps coming up almost like the final buoy keeping him from sinking. It's the single piece from his latest album, SSS for You, still getting any sustained attention. And unlike the majority of the other songs that seemingly fizzled immediately after release, Nokia managed to stick around, prompting a wave of discussion about whether Drake is really back or if he's clinging to someone else's lifeline. When you dig deeper, you learn there's an entire backstory to Nokia that makes Drake's involvement look more like a convenient attachment than a genuine creative effort. Because word has it that nearly every memorable moment on this record, the undeniable hook, the captivating beat progression, and even the punchy transitions didn't originate with Drake at all. Instead, it appears he merely put his name on a polished project, hoping it would serve as the comeback anthem he desperately needed, considering how many setbacks Drake has dealt with recently, from lukewarm reactions to past singles to ongoing comparisons with Kendrick Lamar. This might be the worst time for any suggestion that he's siphoning credit from another artist. In fact, discovering that Nokia might not be truly his creation has never cast him in a more suspicious light. Before we unravel each layer, show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing. It goes a long way. And given the shocking details about how Nokia apparently came together, you'll want everyone in the hip-hop scene to catch wind of it. Because at this point, it's no longer just about the track itself, it's about Drake's credibility in an era where authenticity is everything. The controversy swirling around Nokia centers on an artist named Ellen, who appears on the credits for vocals and production. Now, many times, a name in the credits is just part of normal collaborations. But in this case, Ellen seems to have been responsible for the complete foundation of the track, from the melodic motifs to the phone call-inspired hook that people can't get out of their heads. Multiple sources claim Ellen had a finalized version months before Drake's release date. Even more convincing is the existence of footage allegedly showing Ellen playing a version of Nokia that sounds uncannily like the final cut minus Drake's vocals. If that's legitimate, then the entire narrative changes. Instead of Drake shaping Nokia from scratch, it becomes the story of Drake stepping in at the last minute to lend his star power to someone else's vision. Sure, Ellen got credited, but that doesn't automatically mean Drake did any significant lifting. Naturally, Drake's most fervent fans have tried to spin this as typical industry practice, calling it just another reference track. But there's a huge difference between gleaning inspiration from a reference and adopting nearly every hallmark of a song from an outside source. If a reference track dictates the fundamental structure, the rhythms, and the catchiest elements, then the main credited artist might be little more than a figurehead. What makes this even more intriguing is how Nokia stands alone as the only salvageable track from an album that otherwise fell flat. SSS for You came with big hopes, plenty of hype around Drake's so-called return to form, but quickly slid off the radar. None of the other songs had staying power, leaving Nokia to shoulder the burden of carrying Drake's name through streaming platforms and social media chatter. Now, if that sole surviving hit wasn't even Drake's idea, it casts doubt on whether he still has the creative spark that once made him unstoppable. Yet, within the OVO camp, there's an effort to crown Nokia as proof Drake never really fell off. They treat it like a rallying cry, almost an anthem proclaiming Drake's return. But if you strip away the hype and look at who truly crafted the core of the song, it seems more like a borrowed piece of art that Drake stumbled upon and decided to brand as his comeback track. That approach might have worked a few years ago when Drake was on top of the world, releasing chart-dominating hits left and right. But now, with a shaky album era and critics already questioning his authenticity, latching onto someone else's project feels like a last-ditch move. And for listeners who value rap's emphasis on genuine authorship, it's the kind of thing that could cement their doubts about Drake's artistry once and for all. Of course, the controversy isn't just about one song. It ties into Drake's ongoing rivalry with Kendrick Lamar, who, by contrast, is hailed for his deeply personal, cohesive projects. Drake's fans have argued that Nokia signifies Drake winning some imaginary battle for hip-hop supremacy. But how do you claim a victory over a lyricist like Kendrick if your own victorious single is largely traced back to another person's brilliance? Since Kendrick rarely faces these kinds of ghost creation allegations, the gap in authenticity between the two artists grows more obvious. Drake's been dogged by claims of borrowed work for years, dating back to earlier disputes about reference tracks and uncredited writers. Each time, his defenders say it's normal for big artists to collaborate. But Nokia pushes that defense to its limit, since the track's distinct sections seem to be fully inherited from Ellen's initial demo. Another angle is the question of whether Drake is still a rapper first or if he's crossed decisively into pop star territory. Many major pop singers lean heavily on teams of songwriters and producers to craft hits, openly acknowledging it's part of the process. But rap fans typically expect an MC to pen their own verses and shape their own sound. If Drake is basically doing the pop approach, swooping in to finalize something that was already fleshed out, can he still make a convincing claim for top-tier rap status? Even the promotional push for Nokia brings up red flags. Drake didn't place it front and center when SSS For You launched. He focused on other tracks, which fizzled. Only after fans found Nokia appealing did he pivot, putting it in the spotlight and unveiling a music video aimed at fueling the Drake vs. Kendrick narrative. Observers say this indicates Drake didn't truly grasp Nokia's potential or care about it until it began catching on. That alone suggests he might not have been intimately involved in its creation, because you'd expect an artist who crafted a track like that to know it was a standout from day one. The music video itself also generated confusion. Instead of capturing the vibe that made Nokia resonate, its atmospheric tone and catchy phone call motifs, Drake leaned into petty references and subtle barbs aimed at Kendrick. It felt disjointed, like the visual was tacked on to push a rivalry, rather than deepen the track's natural appeal. For those in the know, it came across as a misguided attempt to inject Drake's personal issues into a song built largely by someone else. If you zoom out, it's a telling snapshot of where Drake might be in his career. At one point, he could drop a project with minimal fanfare, and it would still top charts for weeks. Now, he's leaning on a single track, possibly not his own, to stave off critiques that he's run out of ideas. Far from the commanding presence he once was, Drake seems to be chasing moments instead of creating them, and it's the fans who will decide whether this tarnishes his legacy permanently. Casual listeners might not care about behind-the-scenes details. They'll just enjoy the catchy melody and Drake's verses. But dedicated hip-hop enthusiasts who dissect every layer of an album won't easily overlook the possibility that Drake's biggest win from this album cycle belongs more to Ellen than it does to him. If Drake hoped to use Nokia as a statement piece declaring that he's overshadowing Kendrick and reclaiming the throne, this revelation could dismantle that notion altogether. Because what does it say about Drake's current artistry if his best track is an outside idea? At that point, any claims to overshadow a critical darling like Kendrick fall flat. In reality, the entire fiasco might accelerate Drake's slide from hip-hop grace. He already faces scrutiny for not penning all his bars, for leaning too much into sing-song pop territory, and for being overshadowed by more lyrically dense contemporaries. Discovering that Nokia was primarily someone else's creation is just more ammunition for those who say Drake's no longer a force in genuine rap. For Drake's hardcore fanbase, though, the conversation might be different. They could argue that as long as the track is fire, who cares how it was made? Big names frequently outsource everything: production, writing, concepts to entire teams. But that mindset clashes with the traditional hip-hop ethos, which prizes personal expression and truth in each verse. Moreover, the risk is that once a major secret like this surfaces, people start reevaluating everything else. If Drake's role on Nokia was minimal, who's to say that's not the case for other songs that also had suspiciously strong hooks or unusual shifts in style? Critics could comb through Drake's discography, looking for other instances where he might have latched onto a lesser-known artist's idea. It's a slippery slope that can unravel a carefully cultivated reputation, and if Drake wants to outlast these criticisms, he might have to deliver an undeniably self-crafted project next time, something so good it erases doubts about Ghost involvement. But can he do that? If Nokia really was a lifeline from another creative mind, where does Drake go from here? Will he find the next Ellen to piggyback off, or is he finally going to sink without a borrowed concept propping him up? It's also worth noting how quickly the Nokia talk became about Drake vs. Kendrick, as if no one else in hip-hop matters. Perhaps because Kendrick's success story is so dramatically different. Kendrick's entire brand revolves around artistry, unique concepts, and cohesive albums that feel deeply personal. Meanwhile, Drake's brand leans heavily on pop crossover appeal and viral hooks. If Nokia is just a borrowed blueprint, it amplifies the gap in authenticity between these two titans. Looking at the bigger picture, Nokia could be the moment fans point to when they say, "This is where Drake openly embraced the pop star method." Sure, major hip-hop artists collaborate with producers and sample existing ideas, but this scenario seems closer to the mainstream pop formula. Find a hit from behind the scenes, add star vocals, package it for mass consumption. For a star who once reigned as a top MC, that shift might be the ultimate sign that Drake's rap credibility is all but gone. Yet, none of this is guaranteed to destroy Drake's commercial dominance. Big names often ride out controversies on the strength of brand loyalty alone. Plenty of listeners simply want a catchy tune, no matter who originated it. Drake's massive audience might keep streaming Nokia, blissfully unaware of its backstory. But in hip-hop specifically, respect and acclaim often matter as much as chart positions. If Drake loses that respect, he might continue making money, yet remain an outlier in conversations about hip-hop greatness. So, where do we stand now? For critics, Nokia is proof that Drake's creative well might have run dry. For fans who only care about hits, it's just another banger to play at parties. And for those who idolize the lyrical depth of Kendrick Lamar, it's a clear reason to say Drake is nowhere near the same league. Ultimately, the track's success might be overshadowed by the suspicion that Drake latched onto someone else's full concept. Let me know how you feel about this entire situation with Drake and Nokia. Does it confirm your worst suspicions about his reliance on reference tracks, or do you think it's just the nature of modern music production? What does it say about Drake that this is the lone shining track from SSS for you? And more importantly, if he can't top Nokia with his own creativity, is his future in hip-hop already sealed? If you've read this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's a huge help to the channel. And if you want even more insight, check out the suggested video showing how Kendrick Lamar's mega-successful tour is about to shake the entire music industry, making it even harder for Drake to cling to narratives that he's still the guy to beat. Because if Nokia is all Drake's got left, and it's not really his, things might get a lot worse from here on out, because let's not forget, Kendrick Lamar isn't the only one Drake tries to stack himself against. In the bigger picture, Drake's brand hinges on comparisons to the greatest in hip-hop history. Yet each fresh allegation about borrowed music chips away at any claim he might have as a truly original artist. At some point, even the diehard fans might ask, how many more Nokias are out there, songs that Drake didn't actually craft, but packaged under his name? If that question becomes too loud to ignore, Drake's legacy could shift from one of the greatest to one of the most manufactured, and no matter how catchy Nokia is, that realization could follow Drake well beyond this album cycle. Ultimately, that's why this situation resonates well beyond one track. Nokia might be a turning point. Is Drake truly capable of generating fresh, boundary-pushing music that once defined him, or has he pivoted to a more commercial strategy, where he's willing to capitalize on the work of uncredited visionaries? Fans who've been loyal from the start may now wonder if the artist they once celebrated for raw honesty and clever bars has disappeared, replaced by someone chasing hits, no matter who originally conceived them. And if that shift is genuine, Nokia may stand as the clearest sign yet that Drake's golden era is finished, overshadowed by borrowed ideas and questionable shortcuts that undercut his stature in the genre he once ruled. And in the long run, that's the crux of the debate. An artist's reputation in hip-hop depends on more than just chart success. It's built on the trust that fans place in the music. If Drake keeps reaping accolades from someone else's blueprint, even casual listeners might begin to question whether his crown has lost its shine. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out until the end. If you got something valuable out of this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to stay in the loop whenever I drop new content. Also, if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and give this video a like and share it with someone who might love it as well. Your support truly helps this channel grow, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.